Okay, great. So we're gonna come to close the eyes. And just beginning to relax the body. So we're just gonna take a little body scan starting at the crown of the head. Just imagine gravity is beginning to set in on your shoulders, your face, the hips. And as we come to settle into this stillness, we'll connect with our breath, breathing in all the way, taking in as much air as you can, filling the lungs entirely. And then holding the breath just for a moment, and slowly with control letting it out. We'll do this a few more times, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, just to settle in. Let anything go that feels like it needs to let go. And take another really big one, filling the lungs all the way, and then maybe taking even just a little bit more. And finally, let's do one together to just settle in, breathing in all the way. Holding the breath. And then slowly with control, letting it all out through the mouth. Just coming in to feel the body. Allow here the natural rhythm of the breath to take over, and this natural rhythm can be spontaneous, just releasing any and all control over the breath. And I always like to just do a little inventory here. So take a little, inventory, take a moment here to assess how you feel today. Do you feel really still and grounded, perhaps centered, or maybe a little bit scattered and ungrounded? Maybe you feel really busy in the mind or in the body. Maybe you feel at peace. You can also find yourself anywhere on the spectrum between these two. So just acknowledging wherever you're at. And let's imagine we're taking like a scanner and we're starting at the very top of the head and scanning all the way down to the floor below you. If you're lying down, you can start at the crown of the head all the way to the feet. And as we scan here, just scanning the body, notice if there's any areas that feel stuck or stiff or tight or tense, or there's pain, anything. Just again, we're doing just this inventory. So we'll start at the crown of the head and slowly scanning down all sides of the head, the front of the face, the jaw, the neck, the throat, the shoulders, down the back and the front of the chest and the upper arms, all the way to the fingertips. Scanning through the chest, we'll move down through the abdomen, the mid-back, the low back, and pelvic region, all the way down to the toes. We'll do this one more time. Just taking yourself through the motions on your own, eventually making your way to the feet. And then coming back to our center. So we're going to imagine or feel into the space in the center of the body. So feeling into that space that's right about, let's say 3 inches above the belly button. And it's exactly in the center of the body, between the front body, back body, sides of body. Just breathing into this space here, and if you would like, you can also visualize a light. And feeling the breath move through the body, feeling the chest expand as you inhale and contract back as you exhale. If you're visualizing a light here, imagining it white, expanding as you inhale and contracting as you exhale. From here, we're going to just do a little housekeeping. So as we inhale, this white light or the breath moves from the core center up the shaft of the spinal column all the way to the crown of the head. When you reach the top of your inhale, this light is at the very crown of the head. As you exhale, it travels all the way back down, even further past that center point to the ground, to the tailbone. Inhaling, it moves up. Exhaling, it moves down. Taking one more round. This time as you exhale, feel the body relax more, let go deeper, become softer. And just tuning into the sensation of being. And I like to connect to this by tuning into the area, where I end and everything else begins. So connecting with that space, your skin, clothes, the sensation of clothes on your body, the weight of gravity on you, the air around you. Just becoming acutely aware of your own existence. And from here, we're going to take ourselves to a place within a visualization. So imagine that you are settled amongst grass, nature, and you're beside a riverbank. You're next to a river and it's close enough that you could reach out and touch the water if you wanted. And this river can be a fictional or non-fiction place, maybe somewhere you visited growing up or a part of your childhood, or just maybe a special place to you. And alternatively, it can be somewhere in the mind, an image that the mind just creates on its own. And we'll start to connect to our senses within this space. So pulling in your senses in every direction as you may, whatever comes up, just allow that to create this imagery. Tuning into the sensation of sitting on slightly cool earth below you. Yet the weather is, let's say, mid-June, early July. The air is warm and soft on your skin. And overhead there's a canopy of trees, blocking out direct sunlight, but every so often this gentle breeze comes through and parts those branches, and you feel sunlight dance across your shoulders. The air feels light and expansive, almost euphoric. And then tuning into the sound of this river rushing by as you sit next to it. Take your eyes around this visual image, this existence of a space within your mind, and notice the light glimmering off of the water as it rushes by. The different tones of color within the rocks alongside the riverbank. And perhaps trees and bushes off in the distance, as well as nearby. Here we'll find a deep inhale to just take it all in. Now as you exhale, settling into this space, taking your mind's eye and drawing it across this imagery, starting at the farthest left that you can possibly imagine. And beginning to guide yourself towards in front of you, and eventually over to the right as far as you can see, with as much detail as you can find. And it's okay if this is generally vague. Not trying to force or create too hard, but rather just be within this space that creates itself. And we'll bring ourselves to a tree nearby. And just bring your awareness to the area of the ground that the tree begins to expand out of. Perhaps seeing some roots there or a disturbance in grass and soil. Imagining, admiring the texture of the bark on this tree, right down to the very base of the ground. And drawing your mind's eye up this tree. Just taking in all the detail, different colors and textures, gradients within the tree. Until eventually you find your eyes landing on the first branch. And then from there, just continuing to follow out. Taking your eye across this branch all the way out to the very tip. As it grows smaller and smaller, with leaves coming off either side, other branches extending out. And then drawing yourself back to where you're seated. And we're going to zoom in somewhere else, so take a look around. Find a small bush, perhaps even a small tree. And we're going to bring our awareness to a leaf resting. Maybe even, moving a little bit in the wind. Every so often that gentle breeze comes by and you feel the sun dance across your shoulders. The warm air all around you. And just noticing this leaf, it's like the most supple, beautiful, fresh youth of a leaf that could ever exist. Looking at it, you can tell that it's soft. And as you admire this leaf, just taking in all this detail, all the detail that it can muster up, the veins within the leaf, the edges, any texture, transparency. Tuning into how it would feel to hold, maybe even how it would smell. And imagine yourself holding this leaf in the palm of your hand. And then coming back to the breath and back to where you're seated. Finding a deep inhale, holding the breath, just a moment of pause. And slowly, with control, letting it out, settling into your space. And now imagine the hands come down on either side of you and begin to graze the grass around you. This is like the best grass. It's soft, it doesn't itch, it's not scratching, it's plush and young. And it has just a gentle warmth to it. Just from you being there. But below you can feel that the earth is cooler. So as we sit in this grass, Noticing the river out in front of you and tuning into all the details that you can possibly take in. How does the air feel in having water nearby? Is there a smell? Perhaps it's fresh. Noticing light dancing across the water as it moves, and imagining the sound that it makes. And in being so close to the water's edge, you notice with one of your hands that you begin to feel some soft, tiny pebbles in the grass. And imagine picking one of those up with your hand, feeling the texture, feeling the temperature, the smoothness. Maybe there's some rough parts on this pebble. Just imagine yourself holding that in your hand. And from here, you'll grasp this tiny pebble, this stone in your hand, holding it snug, and begin to extend your arm and hand out over the water. The palm begins to face down, still holding this stone. The breath moves through the body. Warm air all around you. As you begin to release your grip on this stone, you feel it leave the hands and travel towards the surface of the river. Slowly, it breaks the tension of the water and begins to find itself almost floating feather-like towards the bottom of the riverbank. And you watch this until it makes its way all the way down to the very bottom, where it disturbs some sand, maybe some plant life, comes to stillness. Rewinding your view back to the surface of the river, the water goes as though it's untouched. And bring yourself back to being seated in the grass. The hand reaches down and finds another pebble. And this pebble, again, enters the hand, maybe different than last time. As it rests in the palm of the hand, feeling the temperature, the weight, the smoothness, or maybe some rough parts. You can even imagine you're moving it around in the hand. Finding a deep inhale in. An even deeper exhale out. Imagine your arm extending out over the water. And as your arm is extended out, palms still clasped, the stone, you can feel the weight of it in your hands. The shoulders are relaxed and you look down to the surface of the water. As you begin to release grip, this stone makes its way to the top of the river, disturbing the water's surface and somehow floating like a feather to the very bottom of the river. Eventually coming to settle, you rewind your view, noticing the river, and maybe taking your eyes down the river, looking around, adding more detail. Finding a breath in and a breath out. Guiding yourself back to the space you find yourself settled in. And again, a gentle, warm summer's breeze comes by, parting the leaves of overhead. You feel that sunlight trickle across the back of your neck, your shoulder, and even down one arm. Feeling the expansiveness in the air, almost euphoric. In fact, a little euphoric. find your hands coming down onto the ground again, moving amongst this grass, this soft, lush, young grass, stumbling upon your last and final stone. This pebble enters your hand, resting in the palm. You feel the weight of it, the texture, the temperature. And this time, identifying something you just want to release with the stone. Imagine yourself placing that intention within it. The palm clasps. You extend your arm out, holding on to this thing you want to let go of, whatever it may be, big or small. Just taking a moment in gratitude that it blessed your life in one way or another, but acknowledging that you'd like to let it go. With a goodbye, gently releasing the fingers. You watch this pebble fall to the surface of the river, creating a little splash with ripples, and feather-like it floats back and forth all the way down to the bottom of the riverbed. Breathing and coming back to the water's surface. Coming back to being seated right next to the river, in the grass. An inhale, followed by an exhale, leaves you gazing out over the water, looking at the light dancing on the water, following the river as far as you can see it. Slowly adding details here, adding details there, noticing the color of rocks, stones, boulders, earth, plants, bushes, trees. Then noticing the color blue of the sky. Clouds dispersed and sunlight shining. Drawing yourself back to exactly where you're seated. Feeling the shoulders relaxing down the back. And the face is so relaxed, it's almost as though it's melting. You look across the river and notice a deer in amongst the trees. Not all of the deer's body is exposed, but enough that you can see its head and neck, some of its torso. And as you catch sight of this deer, it looks back at you. You make eye contact. Everything else begins to sort of melt away. Holding this eye contact in deep connection, there is a knowing, a being. Breathing in, breathing out. The deer turns away and begins to make its way back into the forest until you can't see any part of it. Coming back to the body and tuning into all senses. The sound of nature around you, water rushing by, air warm and gentle on the skin swirling all around you. The cool earth below you. The smell of greenery and earth and nature. A small white butterfly begins to fly in from your left line of sight. And as it comes in front of you, it begins to turn into a ball of light. This ball of light makes its way into your solar plexus, the very center of your being. right above the belly button, equal distances front and back, side and side. This light enters the body, and with an inhale, it begins to ascend towards the crown of the head. As you exhale, this light descends all the way to the tailbone. Inhaling, the light moves up like a little elevator, all the way to the crown of the head. Exhaling, it comes back down, all the way to the tailbone. Breathing in, and breathing out. Finding yourself in a neutral state. This light comes back to center. And this time, as you inhale, the light expands so far and so wide that it encompasses your entire body. Inhaling, expands. Exhaling, it contracts. Inhaling to expand. And exhale, let go. Coming into a relaxed state, taking any last little bits of effort or energy, allowing them to melt away. Connect to this state, your state, simply just being. Even just for one single moment. Together we'll inhale all the way. And when you feel like you can't take any more air in, just sip a little bit more in. And then exhaling with control all the way out. And when you can't get any more out, just squeeze that little bit out, that last little bit, emptying the lungs entirely. Then, if you'd like, wrapping your arms around yourself, giving yourself a little hug. We'll come back to blink the eyes open. Maybe stretch a little bit. Check that your house isn't burned down. Nope, all my candles are good. So thank you for joining me, everyone. It's not the same not being in the studio, but it's really wonderful to connect and to see all of you online on such a regular basis. So it's been a blessing in some regard. And I'll be doing this weekly, so I hope to see you soon. Yeah, have a beautiful evening, everyone. Thank you.